Yes, we're reacting to Celtic's heavy 4-0 pre-season loss to the French champions PSG on Tuesday evening. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the game and what I thought of the match, I'll just apologise for the bit of burning on my face. Yes, I have seen a bit too much of the sun today. Who can blame me? We don't often get sun in Ayrshire, and to be honest, I kind of wish that I'd stayed out for the majority of the evening because it was a bit of a waste of time, the match. Who knows, Celtic players and Neil Lennon may have taken a lot from it, but I'm kind of glad that it's over now because it was a bit of a tough watch. It's never nice seeing us absolutely dominated by a side, even in pre-season, but that was the case as PSG ran out 4-0 winners at the Parc de France, and coming up are the main talking points from that game. Yeah, you could really have gone back to any away performance against a big team in Europe over the last couple of years and under Brendan Rodgers, and just have effectively likened it to the one we saw tonight because it wasn't great at all. There was times in the game, especially a 15 or 20 minute period in the first half when we moved the ball quite well, but all that seemed to really do was anger PSG, and they promptly put in the second and then the third and fourth goals at the second half, despite changing, I think, every outfielder in their team at half time. It was just Celtic in Europe in a nutshell. We didn't even have any awful glaring mistakes at the back, maybe other than Scott Baines for the third goal. But PSG just cut us open at will. They're obviously going to create chances when they've got players like Neymar and Icardi and Mbappe playing against you. And you've got to appreciate the fact that we're playing against a much better team. But I just think we can do so much more in Europe. It was a Brendan Rodgers-like performance. It was reminiscent of the two Champions League games we had against PSG a couple of years ago. And any of the goals you saw tonight were just as bad as the ones in both of those games. So in that context, pretty disappointing. A couple of players, I don't want to single anyone out because I realise it is just pre-season, but I'm going to do exactly that. Near Beaton, good centre-back, domestically, does a job, fills in, gives us all a good team member, but I'm not convinced. In fact, I know for a fact he's not good enough when it comes to games like this, and obviously games in Europe against better teams. And I think if we've got him playing at the back in our European qualifiers, we could be in for a bit of trouble. Now, I realise that we're not going to play a team as good as PSG in our Euro qualifiers, but I think the point remains that he shouldn't be considered as a centre-back going forward. I think someone like El Hamid would be a much better option if Lennon has to feel that he wants to play a back three. Or, here's a novel idea, Celtic, why don't you go and sign a centre-back to partner Ayer and Julian in a back three as well? Maybe that would work, I don't know. A few other things I want to touch on. Olivier Ntcham, saw a lot of comments online saying that he was the best player in the park, or certainly wearing green and white, and I thought he was decent, but just slowed down the play a lot for me. I don't think he's in many ways he's good enough because he's got the technical ability, but in games like that, sometimes felt that tonight he could have done things in one touch that he maybe took two or three, like releasing players down the wings or switching the play, and that was a bit infuriating in a game like tonight when we had to be quick in the counter-attack and get PSG when they'd pushed up the park. I just felt that when it came to Jam, sometimes he really slowed things down, but he was by no means the worst Celtic player tonight because there were a few, but then equally we're playing against such a good team in PSG, so I really don't want to be too critical. You've got to remember that this is a PSG team who are gearing up for, I think they've got a couple of cup finals and then obviously the final 8 of the Champions League in Lisbon. So they're a team that are ahead of us in the curve. They've also scored masses of goals prior to tonight. And if you look at their 2 previous games, we actually got off lightly. So a couple of negatives for that. Just in general, the feeling of watching Celtic be torn apart by a team like that, and even having good spells and passing the ball well and looking likely, and then just, being torn apart effectively and conceding it well. It's difficult, and I don't like that feeling at all. I find the Champions League games when we qualified there under Rodgers such a hard watch, and part of me wouldn't be too unhappy if we ended up in the Europa League this season. I think we showed last year that we're able to compete at that level, and maybe that is our level now, the Europa League as opposed to the Champions League. And as much as the Champions League has a glitz and glamour, it's pretty horrible watching your team being torn apart, as would happen, if not worse than tonight, because obviously PSG made all those changes at half time. So Europa League, to be honest, is fine with me. It's not the end of the world because I won't have to watch teams tearing us apart like that, or I shouldn't anyway. And when you add in the fact that we won't even get full houses at Celtic Park in a home group stage Champions League game this season, then maybe it's not a bad year to be in the Europa League. But yeah, just a reminder of how far we are behind the very elite teams in Europe. Of course, it's not news. We all know that despite how good we are in Scotland and how much this team has performed and how much they've shown over the last 3 or 4 seasons and winning all those trophies, when it comes to continental football, they are found lacking badly. Maybe it's down to tactics, probably more so down to the fact that our players just are nowhere near at the level of teams like PSG, and that's difficult when you see your team dominating games domestically. You become used to that, and it's tough seeing the same happen to you. But I suppose that's how the majority of the Premiership feels when they come to Celtic Park. So maybe it's just a taste of our own medicine. But yeah, just final point on a couple of players. I just felt that players looked a lot slower than perhaps they usually are. The likes of Edouard and Christie, who are by no means absolute speedsters, but they're quick enough, and they always look really quick domestically. I just thought they looked a bit slower than the PSG players. But again, you're playing against elite players who know how to, or where to be and how to run and how to use their body. So maybe that's just it. Yeah, it's tough to find positives after a 4-0 defeat. I guess the main one, the obvious one, is that it was a friendly match. It didn't matter at all. The result didn't matter one jot, and we can move on knowing that it had absolutely no relevance on what's been so far or what's to come on the rest of the season. Just put it to one side. It's happened. It was a good workout for us. They always say they want a test in pre-season. You don't want to play diddy teams and get your confidence up. You want a test, and that's just about as hard a test as we could get anywhere in world football right now. So that's a positive. I thought Christopher Ajer had a decent enough game as well. I thought he was actually pretty good, despite obviously being part of a defence that conceded 4 goals. Who else did I think? I thought James Forrest was good when he came on as well, and Callum McGregor was the other one. He just doesn't give the ball away, that guy. So another good performance from him. Sadly, they were lacking in the night, but you've also got to remember there was no Scott Brown in that team, so that would have made a difference, I'm sure, on the night. But yeah, it was only 4. I suppose that's another positive, the fact that after conceding so early, you did fear that it could be a cricket score. It finished only 4, and we can just put it to one side and move on. Our quest for glory this season won't be determined by games against teams like PSG. It'll be what we do domestically, and that's all that really matters. So put it to one side and move on. Yeah, I couldn't really let this video pass without just commenting finally on the conduct in the main of the PSG team, and probably a few players in particular. The obvious one, Neymar. Now, I'm not bitter in any way. I think he's an excellent player, and probably one of the best top 5 players on the planet at the moment, but he just lets himself down badly with his showboating. He seems to have it in for us for whatever reason. Maybe it's the stuff in the past with, Scott Brown or whatever's happened, but yeah, he's a top player, but just let himself down in the way he acted tonight. The showboating, the having a go at the referee for a free kick that was so obvious, and then the stuff with Ryan Christie and even our manager Neil Lennon as well. So he wasn't the only one. There's a few others in the second half that were just being arsey for no reason, and a game when they're so much clearly better than us. But then again, I suppose that's what happens. We shouldn't really be surprised. I mean, this is a team who mocked a teenager Holland after they put Borussia Dortmund out of the Champions League, so we maybe knew that class isn't really on PSG's side. And on the subject of the Champions League, obviously a trophy they've never won in comparison to ourselves who have. I don't think you'll find too many Celtic fans who'll be supporting them in the final 8 competition in Portugal. I think that speaks for itself, just the way they act in past games, the way their players like Neymar have acted as well, McCarthy. I don't think that you'll find too many Celtic fans who'll be rooting for them when that happens next month. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully we're back sometime in the not too distant future, just seeing how the match reviews go down with you guys. Let us know what you thought of the game below. Obviously a tough night for us, but maybe you saw some things that I didn't. Maybe you disagree with me. Well, you probably do disagree with me, but let me know below. Remember, you can get some more coverage of tonight's game and other Celtic games on 67hailhail.com. Some really good writers on there as well. I'm on Thursday writing all day there, so check out if you want some more news there. Until then, take care and hail hail.